Hi, I'm Kate Donahue, and I'm going to be presenting joint work with Solon and Barocas called Better Together, How Externalities of Size Complicate Notions of Solidarity and Actuarial Fairness. So let's consider a motivating example of car insurance. Say that each person is either low risk or higher risk, and given a certain collection of people, the insurance company calculates the break-even amount of money needed in total premiums. So the question is, how should this total burden of premiums be divided among policyholders? For example, should the cost be split evenly? Should we charge riskier policyholders more or potentially do something else entirely? And there are multiple goals here. You might think of goals of fairness for multiple different definitions, or stability, saying that you want to incentivize everybody to remain in the insurance pool. And to get a little more specific on this, we say that an insurance pool is core stable if there doesn't exist a group of policyholders that all wishes to deviate and form their own subgroup. And this could be motivated by potential market competition, for example. So a group could fail to be core stable if, say, the low risk policyholders wish to split off, or if any other possible subgroup of policyholders wishes to split off and they would all get lower costs. So there's been prior work in this area. Fairness in insurance has been extensively debated with two main veins of thought. So one is solidarity, and this is the view that the cost of misfortune should be spread across the groups. So prices should be the same or at least more similar, even if the true risks differ. Another goal is, or possible vein of thought, is actuarial fairness. And this is the notion that each person should pay their own way. They should pay what they contribute to the total costs. And this is the goal of a stable insurance pool, as we discussed previously. And typically, these two goals or these two veins of thought are seen in direct conflict with each other. But what's interesting is that both of these discussions assume an expected value notion of premiums, which gives linear costs. One interesting notion is sort of what if there are strict benefits to pooling, so externalities of size. And so we're calling externalities of size the case where there are benefits to pooling groups together that reduces total costs. And in the insurance case, you can imagine multiple reasons for externalities of size, something like administrative costs, for example. We use something called insolvency-based pricing, which is an existing premium calculation method that involves the standard deviation of losses. So this, when you pool multiple groups together, you sort of reduce the variability in pricing, and this causes a cost benefit. But more broadly, our results hold for any submodular cost function. We're sort of using insolvency-based pricing as a motivating example. And here are our high-level results. So given some sort of strictly submodular cost function, the traditional notions of fairness change. For solidarity, it becomes easier to subsidize higher risk groups while maintaining stability. On the other hand, for actuarial fairness, it becomes impossible to reconcile paying your own way and stability. And overall, we also see a blurred line between the two concepts. It's not so much that they're a dichotomy anymore. So one notion is sort of looking at the impact for solidarity. So we see that with externalities of size, evenly splitting costs can financially benefit the lower risk group as well as the higher risk one. So this lemma shows us that if you evenly split costs, this is core stable, so long as the average cost in the is lower in the pool group is lower than the average cost for lower risk policyholders alone. So it should be clear why this condition is necessary. If you don't have this condition, then you know automatically that the lower risk group can split off, form their own insurance pool, and actually they'll pay less. But what's interesting is that this is also sufficient. So what we've shown is that if you can guarantee the low risk group doesn't want to split off, you can also guarantee that any other subgroup of players doesn't want to split off as well. And this is sort of a solidaristic approach of evenly splitting costs, achieves an actuarially fair goal of having a stable insurance pool. And so next we can think about some impacts on actuarial fairness. One lemma we show is that the following properties can't be achieved simultaneously. The first is efficiency, just that we want the total amount we charge to sum up to the amount needed. The next is stability, that we basically don't want to have groups to be incentivized to defect. And the last one is aligned incentive. So in this case, we want that people prefer their partners to be less risky. And our result basically says you can't have all three of these. So if you have efficiency and stability, it must be the case that there's this antisocial incentive of people wanting their partners to be more risky. And so at a high level, the previous literature is centered on this supposed contradiction between helping higher risk members and helping lower risk ones. And we showed that this contradiction is brittle, so any submodularity leads to a more nuanced outcome. We believe this has broader implications. So in many situations, how we decide to treat one individual often depends on how we've decided to treat others. And so this sort of situation creates new opportunities and new challenges for reasoning about and realizing fairness. Thanks.